Okay, so first what we're going to do is, this is the form we're going to talk about today. But before we start learning this form, let's talk about some formulas or some forms that we saw before Christmas. Now, the first thing we encountered was this thing. And it was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Anybody remember what formula this is? The slope formula. Anybody remember what letter represents slope? An M. Good. So this is the slope formula. We will be using this formula again in tonight's homework. When you're given two ordered pairs, you're going to need to calculate the slope formula first. Okay? The next thing that we saw before Christmas was this form. AX plus BY equals C. Anybody remember what this form is called? Nope, this is called standard form. Now remember when we used this one when we were finding intercepts. Remember the cover-up? Remember when I did 3x plus 4y equals 12? And we had to find the x and the y intercepts. And technically the math behind it was to find the y-intercept, you made x equals 0. But to find the x-intercept, you put y equals 0. So the math behind it is to plug in the zeros. So 3 times 0 plus 4y equals 12. And then you're left with 4y equals 12. Divide by 4, y equals 3. So the cover-up was, we covered this up, and then we solved what was left. That gives you the y-intercept. Now, also remember that you need to be able to make this an ordered pair. So when we tested on this, I let you just tell me y-intercept equals 3. But also be aware that it's really an ordered pair. Then to find the x-intercept, I make y equals 0. This is just a review. This is nothing new. So 3x, same equation here. Put 0 for the y. And now I'm left with 3x equals 12. Divide by 3. My x-intercept is 4. The ordered pair is 4, 0. This is the standard form, and this is, when we learn this, we use this to find the x and the y-intercept. The other form we learned before Christmas was y equals mx plus b. And that was called slope intercept form. And we're going to be using this one today. Now, in my equation, y equals mx plus b, what's the m? Slope. What's the b? Good. Remember that the slope is the m and the y-intercept is the b. Good so far? So this is a review. Today, we're going to learn a new form, and that new form is called point slope. Point slope is y minus y1 equals m parenthesis x minus x1. At this point, we're going to start learning some formulas that you're going to need to remember. These formulas are going to be very important for you throughout your math courses here. This is the point slope. This is what we're going to focus on today. So this is the point slope form of a linear equation. Everybody good? Anybody need this slide still? All right, let's get into the lesson. You need it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's look at the actual slides now. So we're asking us on 1, 2, and 3 here to calculate the slope given two ordered pairs. So for example, I'm not going to do all three, I'll do number 2. This is where we're going to use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It doesn't matter which order pair you label as x1, y1, and which one is x2, y2. So let's plug them in. So 2 minus 8 over 4 minus negative 2. Notice it's a negative negative. This is going to turn into negative 6 over, this will turn into 4 plus 2 over positive 6, which simplifies to a slope of negative 1. This is a review. Now, the next ones, 4 and 5, on number 4, this equation that's given to us is actually point slope form. We haven't learned it yet, but this is what it's called. They want us to make this into slope intercept form. To do that, I need to distribute and then move the 5. So the first thing I'm going to do is distribute the 3 to the x and to the 2. So 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 2 is 6. Now to get it into y equals mx plus b, because that's what slope-intercept form is, I have to add the 5. And I get y equals 3x plus 11. And now it's in slope-intercept. So this is all a review. Good so far? I'm going to do number 5, and then we'll start getting into some point slope examples. So for number 5, the given problem isn't any specific form. It's just an x, a number with x, a number with y, then a number equals 0. I need to get this into y equals mx plus b. So this is going back to chapter 1, where we were asked to solve for a specific variable. And in this case, we need to get y by itself. So I need to move the 3x and the 20 to the other side. So I'm going to subtract the 20 from both sides. 3x plus 4y equals negative 20. Then I'm going to move the 3x, and I get 4y equals negative 3x minus 20. Divide everything by 4, and my final answer is y equals negative 3 over 4x minus 5. And now it's in slope-intercept form. So we learned how to do this back in chapter 1. Now we're going to learn how to put all this together and come up with equations in point slope form. Anybody need this slide still? Okay, so here are our objectives, is to graph and write a linear equation using point slope. It's also going to ask us to write a linear equation given 2 points. Now, this next slide is actually trying to describe or explain the math behind how they come up with the point slope formula. I'm not going to expect you to do something like this. What I expect you to do is to memorize this wonderful form of the equation. The point slope form of the linear equation is y minus y1, m parenthesis x minus x1. Now, when we first start out doing problems, all we need to do is take out the y1, put a number from an ordered pair, take out the m, and take out the x1. So all we're going to do is, if you memorize this formula, replace these three letters with numbers. And I'm going to give you an example of it. It's not in your slides. Just going to make up a random problem right now. So the slope that I'm going to give you is going to be 2. The ordered pair that I'm going to give you is going to be 3, 4. This is how the information will be provided. Remember, again, slope is the letter M. In your ordered pair, the first number is x1. The second number will be y1. I'm going to replace the red, the blue, and the green in this equation. So here we go. So y minus, and I'm going to put in green, and I'm going to put equals, then the slope, which was 2, parentheses are still there. The x and the y don't change. They stay the variables x and y. And then I'm going to put in the 3. And I'm done. So when you're given the slope in an ordered pair, all you're going to do is put in that slope in front of the parentheses and then put the x1 and the y1 in. Good so far? Now, the beginning part of the homework, this is what you're doing. Just plugging in these three numbers. Each row in the homework adds an extra step. So then the next row, I think they're questions like 6 and 7. They're going to say, using this slope and using this order pair, write an equation in slope-intercept form. Anybody remember what this form is? What's the name of the lesson? Point slope. So this is in point slope. But if they said put it in slope-intercept, what do you think I have to do? Slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. How can I change this equation that I just got into this? What do I have to do? I just did it in the warm-up. I distribute. Good. Okay, so I am going to distribute the 2 to the x and to the 3. Let me just get rid of this. So I'm going to distribute first. So 2x and 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. I'm going to drop down the y minus 4 equals, and now I still need it in the right form, so I have to add the 4. And now it's in y equals mx plus b. So some of the questions are going to say, leave it in point slope. When it says leave it in point slope, you put in the 3 numbers and stop. When it says put it in slope-intercept, that's when you need to distribute and isolate y. Good? Let's do another example. Anybody need this slide? So let's just do baby steps here. Let's just take this given information and only put it in point slope. We won't do slope-intercept yet. Okay, so what do I need to put in for y1? What's my y1 up here? 1. What's my slope? What's my x1? And I'm done. So again, the slope is m, the 5 is x1, the 1 is y1. So when it says point slope, you take those 3 numbers and replace it and stop. It's that simple. Good so far? Anybody need the slide? Let's try another example. What is my y1 for right here? 3. What's my slope? What's my x1? And I'm done. So I take the 3 numbers and plug them in. If it says point slope form, that's all you do. It's not any harder than that.
Can you do this in slope intercept?
Okay, then they're going to also ask you to put it into slope intercept. So let's go ahead and distribute it. Let's practice it. So what do I'm going to need to distribute the -4 to both. And I get -4x. What's -4 times 0? 0, right? Do I need to put +0 here?
No.
I don't need to. So just know that that's a +0. But is it in slope intercept?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to do?
Isolate the y.
Okay, isolate the y, and I'm going to add 3. Notice the 4x and the 3 aren't like terms, so I just tack it on to the end. And now it's in slope intercept form. Now, if you realize that this ordered pair right here was the b, you could have jumped right to the answer. Does that make sense? So some of the questions are going to say leave it in point slope, and then some of the questions will say put it in slope intercept. So you need to read the directions. The same thing's going to happen on the quiz and the test. You do not have any quizzes this week. You will have a quiz next week, and then the test the following. All right, let's try another example. Again, we still only want point slope. So again, all we're going to do is replace the y1, the m, and the x1. So I'm replacing m, this, and this. What's my y1? Okay, and notice it's a negative. Everybody see that? Because this negative sign is this. The y1 is -4. So when it's negative, this is going to turn plus. It's the only thing I really want you to simplify when it says point slope. Over here, my m is 1, and then my x1 is -1. And again, negative. So it's going to turn 1, x plus 1. Point slope, and you're done. So whenever there's a negative number in your ordered pair, it's going to make that negative sign turn plus or positive. Good so far? All right, let's see what's next. Same thing, it's a fraction. Don't be afraid. All we're doing is replacing. This half is just our x1 that we're going to just put it in the problem. So again, y minus 1, because my y1 is 1, my slope is 2, and my x1 is half. And you're done. We're not distributing anything. We're just leaving it just like that. Good? Next. Anybody remember what the graph of a line that has a slope of 0 looks like? Which way is the 0? Good, horizontal. Good. So when the slope is 0, the graph, I guess it's not here. So this graph is actually a horizontal line, but the vertical line is undefined. Remember, it's up and down. Did I tell you guys that trick? All right. So here, again, you're just plugging it in. They're not asking you for slope intercept. So all you did was put the m, which was 0, and then the x1, which is 3, and then the y1, which is -4, and plug it in. Let's see what happens to this though when we distribute it. So let me rewrite it here. What's 0 times anything? So really this whole thing is just 0. Let me fix this. So now I have y plus 4 equals 0. How can I get that in slope-intercept form? What do I have to do? How can I get y by itself? Good. Subtract the 4. And now I get y equals -4. Remember, when it's y equals a number like this, it's going to be a horizontal graph. So if I were to graph this, it's just going to be that horizontal line through -4. That would be the graph of y equals -4. Let's say that's -4. Pretty good on that? Will be a horizontal line. All right. This is a typo. It's not lesson 5-7. It was back at the beginning of chapter 4. But we learned how to graph using slope-intercept. So let's go ahead and review that. So when I have a coordinate plane, I know it's not on graph paper, but let's say I asked you to graph the equation y equals 1/2 x minus 2. Using slope-intercept, how can I graph this? Where does my first point go? Let's talk about the parts of this equation. Negative what?
-2.
Good. This is my y-intercept. This is my starting point. So on the y-axis at -2, I put my first point. From that -2, I'm going to move my slope. What is slope defined as? What over what?
Rise over run.
Good. Slope is rise over run. My slope is located right here in front of x. So from that first starting point, that -2, I'm going to rise 1 up and 2 to the right. So from this point, I'm going to go up 1 and over to the right 2. Put a dot, connect my points. This is how we graph using slope-intercept. Now, let's say you weren't given an equation, but you were given an order pair and the slope. So let's say the order pair they gave you was 2, 3 with a slope of 2. How could we make a line using that information? What could we do? Where would we start, Paula?
We would do it into the point slope form, and then from there, turn it into slope-intercept.
Okay, we could do that and then graph it exactly the way that we did it before.
Yeah.
Okay, what would be a faster way? What she said is perfectly good. And that's good that she understands the way we can manipulate these forms. Because this is going to be important that she understands this, and that's good. But what would be a faster way? Just using these 3 numbers. What if we started at this point instead of a y-intercept? So let's graph the order pair 2, 3. Remember, the slope of a line is the same no matter where you start. How can I turn a whole number into a rise and a run? What can I do to the 2 to make it a fraction?
Add a 1 on the bottom.
Good. I'm going to add a 1 to the bottom of the slope. So now I have rise 2 and run 1 from this starting point. So I would go up 2, 1, 2, and over 1. And then I can connect my dots and make my line. So you don't necessarily have to start on the y-intercept. You can start at the point that's given and then just move the slope that's given. And you can graph that way also. So we're learning more and more ways to graph these lines. Good so far? Any questions on this? Anybody still need this? All right, let's next. Okay, now this one I think is a typo because they transposed the order pair, so don't look at this slide. Let's skip this one. So they're telling us to do exactly the same thing that I just told you to do. Now, they're actually doing it like Paula said to do. Take the information, put it in point slope, and they did that. And we could have distributed and got an equation in slope intercept. But then after they put it in point slope, then they pulled the order pair back, and then they just moved the slope. So they graphed the order pair, -2, 4, and then from that went up 3 and 4 to the right. So up 3 and 4 to the right, got another order pair, connect it, make your line. You won't have to graph like this in the homework. The first 3 questions in the homework are to match the order pair and the slope with the right equation. When you're doing those first 3 questions, look for the graph that has the order pair. That's the fastest way. And then from there, count the slope. Here's another example again. They pulled out the order pair and then looked for the slope. Let's look at an example where they give you 2 order pairs. I'm going to jump to, all right, here's more of the same of what we were doing at the beginning. They gave us a slope here of 3 and an order pair of -1, 4. How can I put this into point slope form? Can somebody tell me the point slope form of the equation? What's the formula? Y minus what? Y1. And then what?
mx plus x1.
Okay, so then m and then parenthesis x minus x1. Okay, so when it asks for an equation and you're given this, we're first going to put it in slope into point slope. Then they wanted the final answer in slope intercept, so we're going to distribute. So y minus 4, 3 parenthesis x minus -1. I need to simplify this minus minus and make it plus. And now I distribute. 3x plus 3. Add the 4. Final answer in y equals mx plus b form is y equals 3x plus 7. So when it's point slope, you would have stopped right here. But when it's slope intercept, you need to distribute and then isolate y. You'll be doing this in tonight's homework. Now, here's the next phase of the homework. Instead of already giving you the slope calculated, you must do that first. So you're going to do the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 first. Get your m and then plug it in. It doesn't matter which order pair you use, you get the same answer either way. And I'm going to demonstrate that. Everybody good with calculating the slope? So let's look at, now that we've calculated the slope, let's do the problem first with the first order pair. Then I'm going to do it with the second order pair to show you that I get the same answer either way. So y minus -3 equals 2x minus 2. Distribute. Simplify this with negative, negative, and then move the 3. So I get y equals 2x minus 7. Now I'm going to show you what I get if I would have done the other order pair. It will be exactly the same answer once everything is distributed. And notice, even though I chose the other order pair, I still have the exact same answer. Good? You will have to do this in the homework. Can anybody tell me what the y-intercept is by looking at the stuff up on the screen? What's the y-intercept?
From what you did?
Mm-hmm.
-7.
Good. Okay, because this is in y equals mx plus b form, and the b, which is -7, is the y-intercept. In tonight's homework, they're going to say, what are the intercepts? Once you put it in this form, it's easy to see it's staring at you. It's -7. But to get the x-intercept, you got to work for it. Remember, to get the x-intercept, y equals 0. So you would plug in a 0 and then solve for x. And get 7 equals 2x, divide by 2. So your x-intercept here is either 7 over 2, 3.5, or 3.5. So you're going to have to do this also. This is the last part of the homework. So each row in the homework, like 4 and 5 is basic. Then they add another step in 6 and 7. Then 7 and 8, and then 9 and 10, and so on. Each time, it's adding another step when you're doing the homework tonight. Here's the same problem, and here they're showing the distributed property. We covered this at the beginning when I did the warm-up. Remember to turn an intercept into order pairs. You're putting zeros with it. So for the x-intercept, it becomes the order pair 1/4, 0. For the y-intercept, it becomes 0, 1. To find the slope, you'll plug it into the formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Oh, look, there's a typo there. This should be a 1. And then you would subtract and simplify. Once you get the slope, then you can put it back into slope-intercept form. Again, remember the y-intercept is the b in this equation. Here's another equation or another given information just like the beginning. Plug in, this is your m, this is your x1, this is y1. Plug it in to point slope and distribute to get slope-intercept. Let's go ahead and open up the homework. So I'm going to walk you through and tell you the steps to do for the homework. Okay, I'm also going to do number 12 with you. It's the word problem. Everyone needs to be filling it in when you turn in the homework. If you do not have the word problem completed, I'm going to take points off, quite a few points off, because I'm doing it with you right now in class. So open up 4-7, practice A. We're going to do the word problem together. While I wait for you to get that opened up, I'm going to add that to these notes. Everybody finding the 4, 7? Okay. So let's look at this homework so I can tell you how you can solve this homework. What I recommend you do on 1, 2, and 3 is look for this order pair. Find the graph that has this order pair graphed on the line. So first I'm going to do is find the order pair 0, 2. In graph number A, it's right here. Is it on the line? No. So it's not option A. If I go over here, it's right here. Is it on the line? No. Is it over here on the line? Yes, it is. So number 1 is choice C. And then do the same thing for the other 2. Notice the order pair is the same. So you're going to have to, from there, figure out the slope. For this one, notice to get to the next point, I went up 1 and over 2. And I got another point. So once you graph this order pair, move this slope to figure out if it's graph A or B. Now, for numbers 4 and 5, all you're going to do is plug in these 3 numbers into this equation. Y minus Y1 equals MX minus X1. So this is the formula you're using for 4 and 5. Replace the M with, oops, let me highlight. You're going to replace this, this, and this. That's all you're doing on 4 and 5. Now, for 6 and 7, you're going to use the point slope formula and then distribute. So for 6 and 7, step 1, point slope. So you're doing this thing. Step 2, distribute. And then step 3, isolate Y. Now, for 8 and 9, first step is do the slope formula. Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. That's the first step for 8 and 9. After you find the slope, then you follow the same steps for 6 and 7. So same steps you did in 6 and 7, but do the slope first. So this is for 8 and 9. For 10 and 11, we're going to do the same thing we did for 8 and 9. So same steps for 8 and 9. Then to find, the next step, to find the intercepts, plug in zeros. Now, once you have the y equals mx plus b, the y is staring at you. It's only the x intercept that you got to work for. And we're going to do number 12 together. So I've told you step by step what to do for 1 through 11. Let's look at number 12. So for number 12, The t-shirts are going to be the x. The cost is going to be the y. I need to find the slope of the line. It doesn't matter which two order pairs I choose. I'm going to choose the first two. So here, these are going to be x1, x2. This will be y1, y2. So I'm going to do 430 minus 190 over 50 minus 20. I'm going to subtract 430 and 190. And I get 240. Then I'm going to subtract 50 and 20, and I get 30. I'm going to simplify that, and I get a slope of 8. Now, because it asks for a slope-intercept form, I'm now going to put it in point slope. This was my M. I don't care which order pair you use for point slope, because once we distribute, we all get the same answer for slope-intercept. So I'm going to choose the first order pair, and now distribute. 8 to the x, 8 to the negative 20. Add the 190, and I get y equals 8x plus 30. That is the slope-intercept form. To find out the cost for 130 t-shirts, I'm going to plug in 130 for this x. So I'm going to do 8 times 130 plus 30. So 8 times 130 gives me 1,040, plus the 30 gives me 1,070. So the cost would be 1,070. We're going to practice the word problems a little bit more tomorrow. But I want you to practice the beginning part, plugging it into point slope first and then distributing. Your homework is the practice A. All of the questions need to be put into point slope form first. Some of them will be needed to be distributed into slope-intercept. Okay, we will go over this homework tomorrow and then do a few more practice problems. And then tomorrow night will be practice B. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to give you some more practice from the textbook until we can get the hang of manipulating these equations. So you can go ahead and start on it now. You only have about 5 minutes, but go ahead and get started on it, and it needs to be turned in. Everybody should have the answers for number 12. Correct answers are the 1,070 and then this equation here, the y equals 8x plus 30. If there's not enough room, because this is going to involve a lot of steps, add a page to the bottom. Don't try to cram it in. I need to see all your work. So go ahead and get started. If you have questions, let me know.